Hey guys, what's up, it's Enter. Today I'm going to be showing you what, in my opinion, is the most efficient and fastest way you can start inside of Space Engineer Survival. This is especially useful on online servers, where it's basically a race against time, and starting on any planet or moon is an instant death sentence. So, the spaceport is what you want to start on for this method, since it's large grid and has quite a lot of components to salvage and build whatever you want. So now we're spawned in, the first thing you want to do is grind down a few blocks. First of all, this sliding door right here. You might not want to grind it down all the way, just for structural purposes, or to make sure it keeps looking nice, but you are going to need quite a few of the components from this sliding door. Now, since we don't have an airlock anymore, there's not really any point in keeping a pressurized interior, so we grind down this air vent as well. So once we have these components, we go outside and then place down a small grid landing gear. Make sure it's a small one because you only really have the components for this. So we weld this up, and once we weld it up, we'll have the progression to weld up the seat. We need to grind this down and then weld it back up above functional. Then we'll unlock everything else we need. Now, first of all, we grind this down because you might need the components elsewhere. And we also need to make some space for the drill. So we grind down this window and then go into the menu, take away the landing gear because you're not going to need that, and then grab your drill and then put whatever components you've already got in the inventory and then weld it to put all the components into the drill. Now, we'll put these back in here so we can have the full inventory for salvaging components, but maybe take an auction bottle because they're handy. Now, so you'll see that you need 300 steel plates to make the drill, but we're only going to need 180 of them to be able to build it up to functional. So it's easy enough to get the steel plates, just salvage them off the ship. You don't really need any of this armor plating at the back here. So now that we've salvaged a lot of steel plates, we should have enough steel plates. Yep. There we are, now we can weld up the rest. So to get the large steel tubes for the drill, we're going to salvage them off 2 of our thrusters.
Inventory full.
Now, depending on your game's inventory size, you might find that your inventory is getting clogged up with thruster components. Just put them in the cargo container, you might need them later. And then we'll need to go down here and grind down a second one.
Inventory full.
And we'll do the same and put the clogging up thruster components in the cargo. So now that we've got all the large steel tubes we need, we go back up to the drill and weld it up. And now we have a functioning drill on the front of our ship. We put it connected to the survival kit, which is connected to the rest of the ship's conveyor system anyway. But using the survival kit, we can go into the production tab and put ingots on. This will convert the stone that we mined from the asteroid in front of us into ingots that we can use to build other things. So, go into the toolbar, select your drill, then head towards the asteroid. So making sure you don't crash into the asteroid, approach it slowly, and then once you're close enough, activate your drill, and you'll be able to do a little bit of mining of stone. Now, stone's pretty useful because you can extract the trace materials from it, which is iron, nickel, silicon, and gravel. So making sure not to overflow your one cargo container, which you've already overflown, you can see in your production tab that these ingots are now producing. And in the inventory, we've now got quite a few iron ingots, nickel ingots, and silicon wafers, and gravel. So while all these are producing in the survival kit, I find it's good to go and map out your asteroids. And before we head out to mine the asteroids, make sure to put everything in your inventory into the cargo container. This means you won't lose them when you return to the ship. So, the first starting asteroid, sometimes you can get lucky and get quite a few resources on it, which we appear to have got lucky now. So we got cobalt around here. Now cobalt is one of the first things you want to look for because it allows you to make even more cargo containers. So to mark the location, you open the chat, then do the /GPS command, and then type in the name of your GPS point, which you'll just put cobalt. Now if you go into the K menu, you'll see it in the GPS tab, cobalt. And now we just repeat that on several other asteroids to find other resources. This asteroid does not seem to have anything. I have the best luck. So here we find some iron. Now remember, the hand drill has a built-in ore detector that has a very limited range, but is enough to identify the type of ore you've got. It's good for identifying between platinum and silver, or cobalt and magnesium. But we'll just mark out the GPS for this. And there we've marked iron. Here we have magnesium. Here's some silicon. And here's some nickel. Now normally it's a good idea to continue this process until you've got a map of every single ore mapped out. And once you've got your map of ores, you can do backspace to respawn at your pod. This is a lot quicker than flying all the way back. Now back at the pod, you should be able to see that all the stones being turned into ingots, and we're ready to start building the next part of the pod. So, grind down all this down here. And now we have space for a basic assembler, a basic refinery. Now the first thing you want to weld up is usually the basic assembler. I'll tell you why in a minute. Now you'll see you'll not have enough resources on your pod to just salvage things from your pod and then put it on the assembler. So a quick way to do this is to do right click to put it to your build planner, you can see down here, and then shift middle mouse button on any other cargo container that's connected to the grid, and then it goes to production. So you can see now all the components you need are being produced inside of the survival kit. So now that everything's produced, you can middle mouse button to collect everything from the cargo container. Might have to do this multiple times to get all the things to withdraw because Keen is a bit buggy. And so now you can weld up the basic assembler completely. Now before we weld up the basic refinery, there's something we first must do. If you select a block and then try to place it on the respawn ship, you'll get a message saying respawn ship. It will get removed if you spawn a new one. But also on multiplayer servers, it'll get removed if you leave the game, which can be a bit of a problem and very confusing for newer players. But there's an easy way to fix this, and that involves placing two merge blocks. If we go into the progression and then search up merge block, we'll need to research the merge block by building a solar panel first. Now we'll place the solar panel up here because it's nice and it kind of forces you to orient the ship in the way of the sun. We'll weld what we have onto this, then remember to right click again. Try and get what you can get by pressing middle mouse button, and then shift middle mouse button to put everything to production. Now this time you'll see it's being produced inside of the basic assembler, which is a lot faster than being produced inside of the survival kit. Now middle mouse button to collect everything you can, it's almost done. There, we got everything we need. And we can weld up the rest of the solar panel. Now you can see by building the solar panel we've unlocked new blocks. One of them will be the merge block. Now if you can't find the merge block, it's under the piston category, so remember scroll wheel and it'll cycle all the different blocks in the group of blocks. Place your merge block on this pylon here, and place another merge block tower coming off the asteroid. Then put 2 merge blocks to the build planner. Try and withdraw it if you can, and then put it all to production. So now we can withdraw all of this, and then weld up the merge blocks. Now you don't have to weld these up all the way, as we're just going to grind them down afterwards anyway. So now I'll get back on our ship, get in the flight seat so we can control it, and then just dock the 2 merge blocks together. Once they come close enough, they'll just automatically align, and then with a little bit of downwards force, they'll dock together. Now once they're docked, just get out, and then just grind everything down here down. So now if we get a block out, you'll see that it does not show that this is a temporary ship anymore. Now as long as the server that you play on doesn't have any plugins that delete certain grids if they don't have a certain block, you should be fine. This should be your ship from now on. You should be able to leave the game and then come back to it. So now the next priority is to weld up the rest. So doing the same thing again, weld up what you can. Right click it to put it in the build planner. Try and withdraw everything you can from the conveyor grid. Put all of that on the basic refinery. Then shift middle click to put it all to production. Now you might not actually have enough iron from your initial stone mining trip to build all of the steel plates. That doesn't really matter because you don't have to put all the steel plates on it. Some of the steel plates at the top are just there for durability purposes. Now we have a basic refinery, we can mine a lot more different types of ores, including the cobalt, which I said was quite important. So now I'm going to head to the cobalt asteroid that I mapped out. There's a weird bug at the moment where doing this doesn't really make your ship make any sound anymore, but rejoining the game should fix that. So now we're arriving at the cobalt asteroid. Re-enable dampeners. Remember, it's a good idea just to cruise with dampeners off if you want to save some energy. And if you've got better piloting than me, you'll know to slow down a little bit sooner so you don't crash. But it's a good idea not to go straight aiming for asteroids anyway, since if you do that, you probably will crash at some point. So here's our cobalt. Making sure we have the drill enabled, we will mine it. For the cobalt, it's a good idea not to overflow your entire cargo container, although once you've got the cobalt you will be able to make more cargo containers. So now we've got a little bit, we can have a look in the refinery, and it started producing cobalt ingots already. So now we can exit the ship, and go back here, and then grind down this steel catwalk here. Go into the G menu, select small cargo container, and place one down. Do the same thing. Right click, middle mouse button to withdraw components. Put all that on the cargo container. Shift middle mouse button to put it all to production. And then wait for it to produce. Oh yeah, remember we ran out of iron ingots when producing the refinery. So let's just get some stone from the asteroids right next to the cobalt. And putting that to production, we'll be able to make it pretty easily. Just ignore those space pirate signals just going off all over the place. It's just, I put them on the world settings, so they're going to be a bit annoying. But here we can put this stone in first in the basic refinery, then just shovel all this stone from the drill back into the basic refinery. Then we should have quite a lot of iron being produced. We should have enough for this. So now if we withdraw all of this, we can now build a second cargo container. And if you want to, you can build even more cargo containers, but I'm only going to build the one for now, because I don't really need any others, because you can see I've still got 10,000 litres of storage left in this one. So now we can pilot the ship out of this big hole in the asteroid. We'll come back to the cobalt if we ever need it, but I think from that tiny amount we should have enough just for upgrading the pod for now. So there we have it. A small mobile base. It's not got massive production capabilities, like if we had a larger refinery, which we will put on eventually if I ever do a part 2 of this. But we've got a basic refinery which can refine most ores, and a basic assembler which can produce quite a lot of stuff. Now the only ships you'll be able to make from this are small grid ones, since as long as you took the thruster components from the 2 thrusters that you grinded down, you might be able to make a few small grids out of that, but you won't be able to make any larger ships. Again, for that we'll need the larger refinery and larger assembler to build all of that, so stay tuned. I'll post another episode to this series in the future. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you all later.